All right, hello. Welcome to a Comic Tropes live streaming episode. My name is Chris. I'm just working on configuring this camera, the one that's aimed at me. Seems like it's going a pretty... It just doesn't seem like it's the right configurations right now. Let's see if I can improve that at all, basically. No, that's not good. Well, I can see a bunch of folks are jumping into the chat room. Welcome, everybody. Just trying to activate my camera properly, and it's giving me a lot of trouble there. I know it's burned out right now. It'll probably activate in a minute. Hopefully that'll yeah, there I am. So I guess the frame rate I'm having trouble with on this one, but more important is obviously like, you know, what I'm streaming for the drawing. So you can just sort of know what I look like, and there I am. So hello to, wow, just so many folks. I apologize. I can't quite keep up with all of it right this second, but feel free to ask questions, and while I draw, I will look up and try to answer as many questions as I'm able, and try to get some interaction going. Always very curious what my viewers are interested in. So I've very lightly sketched a potential Captain Marvel drawing here. And yeah, stop motion tropes. Thank you, J. Andrew World. And yeah, I mean, it still needs some touch up to sort of be accurate, but to what I'm going for. At the same time, I think the basics are in there enough for me to be comfortable moving forward, and big stuff that I'm gonna have to figure out is just sort of facial details and hair and stuff. But I've got the overall sort of framework of my drawing here, and mostly I'll be inking and talking to all of you. So, welcome. Let's see. Did you use a reference model for the sketch? Actually, I did. Yeah, I did use a reference model for this one. Who is your cast for Hawkman and Stargirl and Atom Smasher for the Black Adam movie? Oh, boy. I don't know. I definitely don't know who I'd cast for Atom Smasher, and Stargirl's tough too. For Hawkman, I'd just sort of go with somebody that isn't just a strong guy, but exudes some sort of level of intelligence as well, because traditionally he's a pretty smart guy. Yes, I used Poser for this. And here I go with my attempt to start blocking it in with the biggest parts of the shapes that I want to do. And we'll just see how my inking is progressing. But thanks for joining me. If this is your first time jumping into one of these chat sessions, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Hello, TARDIS Rider and Cedric Feldman and all sorts of people. What kind of pen am I using? I tend to use a lot of brush pens. And this is specifically from Sakura in Japan. It's just something I'm very comfortable with, and it's good for drawing quickly. It seems like it holds up. It's I don't know if it's archival ink or not, but if it's not, then it's close. So first I'm going to just sort of work my way around the foreground elements and the outlines, and then I'm just going to start working in some more detail, and that'll be the plan for today. Not 100% sure how long I'll go, but at least an hour. John Hamm is the perfect... Oh, yeah, sure. John Hamm would be a great... what do you call it? But great Hawkman. He definitely would make a good superhero. No question. Good call. What else? What type of pen are you using? Oh, I think I just answered that, right? Yeah. So this is just a Sakura brush pen. And anyway, hope everybody was able to see the latest comic tropes. It was definitely a fun one to make. I've wanted to talk about Roy Thomas for quite a while. He's definitely a prolific, important writer for sort of early Marvel stuff, and so it was just a good time to talk about his work, since he's done some stuff that contributes to the new Captain Marvel movie. Obviously not the most important creator, but certainly informed a lot of the background elements for Kree and Skrull stuff. So let's hear it for Roy. Conan the Destroyer was based on a Roy Thomas comic. Yeah, Conan the Destroyer, that movie, was actually, I believe he was a co-writer on it. Not a great movie, actually. Conan the Barbarian's good. Conan the Destroyer, not so much. Yeah. Kind of interesting. It's sort of a totally new continuity, even though it still has Schwarzenegger. What do you think about Tetris? I think Tetris is a blast. Who doesn't like Tetris? Come on. Think about it. Do you have original characters drawn on your channel? Actually, I don't know if I have bothered to draw any original characters. I think I just sort of draw stuff like that's popular or something, because I figure that's what people are more interested than, anything that I've created right now. But maybe someday that would be fun. Trying to think, though. Have I? Okay, yeah. Once I drew Omega, the real-life superhero. So I know I did that in one early live stream episode. Can't remember exactly when. So, happy Monday. Today's a day off from work for me, so that is a treat. I have been using it to relax, and to me, this counts as relaxation. I don't know about y'all, but drawing I find very relaxing. Army Hammer is Hawkman. Sure, yeah, that'd work. No question. Let's see. Yup. Amori is talking about how Roy Thomas used the whole Marvel universe in his stories. He did. He loved Marvel and DC history. Como está? Muy bien. ¿Y tú? Look at this. Cartoonists that dedicate their lives and sacrifice on their part to strengthen their intellectual properties. Stan Sakai, Eric Larson, Jeff Smith, just a few. Thoughts on this, Chris? Fan in Newfoundland, Canada. Yes, Goblin. I love it when a creator dedicates so much of their time and energy on their own ideas. I'll put Robert Kirkman in there as well. It's awesome. It's awesome. Because I love the Marvel and DC characters. I'll always have like a sort of a nostalgia for them, and at the same time, it's like, come on. Do you want to make money for somebody else, or do you want to make money for yourself? I don't know. I think it might make sense to do your own thing a bit. Might just make a little bit of sense. What else? Let me see. Hopefully I didn't drop. I'm showing I had a super strong signal the whole time, but I just got to notice that the software running this whole stream dropped for a second, so I'm just going to my my site through my page. Hopefully it's working. I have not read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure yet. Everybody tells me to. I've got so many people on my channel telling me to. Looks like I've got one continuous stream, that it didn't break up, right? Okay, we're good. We're good. Votes for Chris drawing John Wick. That would be a challenge. I could see that. John Wick's cool. Boy, that the second John Wick sure got pretty bizarre compared to the first. But definitely cool action. Did one of those directors just get hired to do a superhero movie? I feel like I'm forgetting something, like that one of them was hired to do a superhero movie, but I can't remember who or what property. It's just like I've got this like little bell going off in my head saying like, remember. It's like that little Zelda elf. Listen. Deadpool 2? Oh, okay, that makes sense. Doi. Alright. Do you have any favorite comic book covers? If so, which? Oh, sure. I mean, comic book covers are awesome. Someday I'll have to do several episodes about just comic book covers. You know, let me talk real quick about somebody that I think is underrated, and I'm biased because he is my friend, but I think that Tony Moore does incredible covers that are really exciting and interesting, and he thinks of things in new perspectives a lot of the time. Definitely his covers on Walking Dead are super memorable, but he's done a lot of great stuff for like Deadpool and other stuff, so... yeah, covers. There's cover artists that I love. I love the painted work of James Jean. Beautiful, beautiful artist. Did a lot of stuff for Fables, for instance. I love the work of Dave Johnson. Dave Johnson is a fantastic illustrator. Wish he'd do more sequential comics, but he's a great cover artist. Such a great sense of design. Dave Gibbons, and oh, you know who I'm thinking of a lot? Brian Boland. Brian Boland has created a lot of iconic covers. You know, these people are, I don't always call them comic book artists, because if you're not drawing on any sort of regular basis, like actual sequential pages, you're just doing covers, I think that's different work, even if you're working in comics. But anyway. Somebody's asking who Honey Badger is. Honey Badger is, I believe, a clone of X-23, who is in turn a clone of Wolverine. So, yeah. Captain Marvel needs some Kirby dots. Yeah, I might add some energy effects. I'm not going to C2E2. I wish I could, but I just don't have the time and money to do that. Do you think that drawing is addicting? Yes, absolutely. I mean, when you're feeling good about how it's coming out, it's very addicting. So, yeah, I definitely think that's the case. Bear with me as I just add a little bit of smaller fine detail here, and I'll jump right back into whatever your questions are. I'm going to make fan art of you. Good, good. Are you considering making an evolution of John Romita Jr.'s art? Probably. Probably. There's a lot to say about John Romita Jr., no question. Are you going to do a comic book one day? Well, I have done some. Not a lot, but I have done some. And yeah, I'll probably do some more comics in the future at some point when I've got some money to pay for an artist. Because I want to write more than I want to draw. I should do a video on Saga. I definitely will. I definitely will. Big fan of Brian K. Vaughan. Really, really enjoy Saga, so that is something I will eventually cover. It's just a lot of demand for a lot of different topics, so it can definitely be tough to choose which one to do when. Am I going to buy the IDW Transformers reboot? Probably not, but I might read it in the future at some point if I have time. I have read East of West. I'm a big fan of Hickman, so that's another topic that, someday I'll get to. Yeah, East of West is a really interesting post-apocalyptic story dealing with a supernatural take on the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Very, very cool. As you can guess from the title, it's a bit of a western, but it's a twist on the western. Let's see. Have I done any figure drawing classes? Yeah, absolutely I have. I love figure drawing. I think that no matter what level you're at as an artist, you can always benefit from more live model figure drawing. One of the things I love to do when it becomes available is something like Dr. Sketchies, where you can pay just a few bucks to see a live model, get a drink or two, and have some great time with with a model posing, as well as maybe doing some burlesque. That's pretty common. So big fan of doing stuff at Dr. Sketchies. When the opportunity presents itself, I definitely make time to go to stuff like that, and I always recommend it to any other artist. Not that specifically, but definitely going to as much live figure drawing as possible. Because, no matter what your style is, it never hurts to refresh the basics and study the human form. And it's fun. So, yeah. Let's see. I am very fond of the comic covers that summarize the plot of the issue with an action scene and word balloons, especially when they're completely inaccurate. Yeah, inaccurate covers are pretty funny. J. Andrew World says, my local circus school does a figure drawing class with acerbates. I don't know what that means. But that sounds cool. Some people are talking about Valiant stuff. Valiant, definitely cool. Haven't discussed them in an episode yet. I know I need to. I will. I'll get to it. Don't worry. Hello, Bethuzel. Cool name. Let's see. A Jim Shooter episode. Yeah, I've been thinking of doing Jim Shooter for a long time, and it's tricky to think of exactly how I'm going to tackle that. Whether I'm going to just sort of do a retrospective of his entire career, or sort of use one specific comic as a jumping on point. So it's something I'm still not 100% decided on yet. Let's see. Just trying to figure out some of these details here. Giving her a little bit of a smirk there. I saw the movie, and overall I liked it. I wouldn't say that I loved it. It's not great, but it's pretty good. There's a lot to still like about it. It's interesting. It's not flawless at all, but it's still entertaining. Marvel's definitely found a groove where they can like make an entertaining movie even if they're sort of making some mistakes along the way. But what I did like about it, one part I liked was it really reminded me of the movie RoboCop, the original. I'm not talking about any of the sequels or remakes or anything. In RoboCop, the hero is the protagonist, RoboCop himself. He's not really himself throughout the movie. He's something, but he isn't himself. And that's what I got out of Captain Marvel. She isn't quite herself. So it isn't as funny as something like, the Ant-Mans and the Thor Ragnaroks and the Guardians of the Galaxy. So it has some humor like all the Marvel movies do, but it isn't like she isn't a total quipster throughout, you know what I mean? But I think it's because, and I'm not trying to spoil anything, it's just that, like, it just reminded me of RoboCop, where the hero isn't able to be themselves. They're not fully formed. And anyway, I just sort of, I like that. I appreciated that is all I'm saying. Anyway, that was something I got out of the movie. Your mileage may vary. I have not discussed the Avengers issue where Hank Pym hit Janet. Yeah, someday maybe I'll talk about that. I'm missing it. It's going a little fast. Sorry. Do you think DC will ever make a Lobo movie? Yeah, probably. Probably. It could be, like, pretty... That would be not too hard to do as a standalone movie. So, in some ways, I'm surprised they haven't yet. But yeah, I do think that they'll do that someday. I think that could be pretty funny. I remember reading Lobo in the days like that where Simon Beasley was illustrating the character a lot of the time, and boy did I, as a teenager, like, I thought that stuff was really funny. I don't know if I'd find it as funny now, but there was a lot that I found funny about Lobo, and I like the idea of an intergalactic bounty hunter that, like, has a code but is sort of like an asshole. Anyway, we'll see. Doomsday Clock. I haven't read that. Ryan Reynolds is Lobo. Sure, why not? He can do any superhero comic book character. Sometimes I wonder about, like, which actors have played the most characters in comic book movies, and I'm pretty sure Chris Evans must have the most, because of course he's Captain America, and a lot of people will also remember he played Johnny Storm, but he was in Scott Pilgrim, he was in The Losers, he was in the animated TMNT movie. I think there's some others that I'm just not thinking of. So he's played a lot of different comic book characters. Captain Marvel doesn't want white men criticizing the movie. I don't get it. Is that a joke? They should cast Aquaman with someone else and cast Jason Momoa for Lobo. Well, just let him play both characters, right? It's comic books. You can make up all sorts of weird logic, like they were cloned. In some of the Peter David Aquaman books, I believe he fights and kind of beats up Lobo a bit. And then they end up as unlikely allies because Aquaman was raised by dolphins, and the one thing Lobo loves is dolphins. I always get a kick out of that. Daniel Craig could have been a good Aquaman. Yeah, he probably could have been. Yeah. I still don't understand why the Kree are bad guys. The Kree have always actually been portrayed as pretty bad guys in almost all Marvel comics. Until, like, somewhat more recent times, and that's mostly because their numbers have been diminished, so you put them in an underdog role. But the Kree have always been militaristic and wanting to conquer the universe. They don't like humans at all. They definitely view us as barely worth acknowledging. They've traditionally been pretty bad characters, like, and that's what made the original Marvel, Captain Marvel, unique, is that he rebelled against that. There's really no other Kree characters I can think of that have been portrayed as good until, like I say, like more recently, after like various devastating things have happened to their people. Ronan the Accuser is sort of portrayed more sympathetically these days, ever since Annihilation. Annihilation is a pretty cool story, by the way. I definitely recommend that one. And the sequel's not bad. Mike M says that he's impressed by my ability to ink without rotating the page constantly. Do I do that for the stream, or do I draw like that normally? A little of both. I definitely am trying to rotate as little as possible just for clarity on the live stream, because what I'm drawing here is not necessarily what I would consider my best work so much as fun. So, not to say that I'm not trying to improve, but at the same time, my primary goal isn't to create my best work ever. It's just to practice my techniques. Hope that makes sense. Paul Walker. Like, everybody thinks that like every actor would have been a good Aquaman. It's because he's just a kind of generic muscular white dude. So there's a lot of actors that could have definitely done Aquaman. But yeah. What is my favorite comic? That's so hard to answer because it could be different on any given day. Is the picture in the thumbnail from Travel Foreman? It is. Travel Foreman and I guess I don't really talk to him anymore, but we definitely used to be pretty close, and would love talking and stuff. And that particular picture is one that he illustrated, and he asked me to color. And obviously it's not like I did anything that impressive, but I colored that one, so I did work on it. And yeah, Travel Foreman is an amazing artist. Amazing. He's so underrated. Not too many people know about his work, and I think he's incredible. Just incredible. Just sort of trying to decide what parts I want to focus on right now. I don't know. I guess I need to figure out some of the costume details. So, what's new with everyone? Anybody else working on any fun creative projects these days? Am I a bad person because I think Ultimatum was good? No, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Sometimes I talk about comics that I absolutely love, and I want people to love Hellboy the way I love it. But if they're like, no, it doesn't work for me, it doesn't make you a bad person. I don't care. Simultaneously, I thought Ultimatum was terrible. Plenty of people are like, no, Chris, you're wrong. I thought it was exciting and badass, and I'm like, totally fine, totally fine. All I can do is offer my honest opinion, and I try to back that up with my criticism, my observations. But I don't care if you guys have difference of opinion. It's more important to me that people just like comics in general. Have I considered making a video on Lone Wolf and Cub? Definitely have considered it. I'll get to it at some point, I hope. Yeah, that definitely Yardapi says that he's trying to start, or she is trying to start a business. Totally respect that. That's definitely a creative undertaking. Who are my biggest influences as far as comic book artists go? Will Eisner is a big one. I'll be honest, sometimes John Romita Jr. is the stuff that he was doing in the 80s and 90s. And then more recently, some of my sort of friends and contemporaries like Travel Foreman, Cory Walker, Nate Bellegarde. Did I say Tony Moore? Cory Walker. Those are guys that I really respect. Matthew Roberts. So a lot of it is definitely my friends, I have to say at this point. I love JR. JR, so underrated. Yeah, I think that when John Romita Jr. has time to illustrate, I think he's really incredible. I think when he sort of rushes, it can sort of look a little goofy, and I'm not always a huge fan. But overall, I really think that he's got some fantastic fundamentals. Yeah. Bethuzel says working on his own creator-owned comic. What's your favorite age? Golden, silver, bronze, modern? Probably modern. Yeah, I'm most excited about what the new stuff is. Have a lot of love and nostalgia for stuff that I grew up with in the 80s and 90s, but yeah, I'm kind of most excited about whatever the newest thing is. Just trying to clean this up since I didn't really follow my pencils. I sort of inked in different ways, so just trying to get rid of the pencils real quick so I can sort of see which way to proceed. Bear with me. I'll try to answer some more questions while I do that. How long do you think it will take for the MCU Secret Invasion to happen? It depends on whatever they decide to build up to next. I could see them building up to Secret Invasion, but I could also see them deciding to build up to Doctor Doom or Galactus or something like that with the Beyonder or Beyonders. It's hard to say. I read any Electric Warrior that Travel Foreman is working on? No, actually, I'm a bad friend. I have not read Electric Warrior. Am I reading the current Uncanny Age of X-Men stuff? I'm not. I'm not reading much right now. I should be reading more comics, but I don't have a lot of time and I don't have a lot of money, so mostly I'm just sort of picking things here and there, and mostly it's based on what I decide I want to review, or if I decide that I'm fascinated by something that I've read, I turn it into a topic. So it's very tied together, what I do on the show and what I'm reading. You can either assume that I've read it recently or reread it recently. That's a fair assumption. Yeah, I don't know if this is great, but it's close enough to what I was aiming for. So in just a sec, I'll be able to move forward with some more inking, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to use some Prismacolors to color this for fun. She can fly. Why is she not wearing high heels? I don't know. Chrissy says, keep reading comics. Thank you. With a focus on the quantum realm, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I won't be surprised if they used Bug, but I have no idea exactly how the Micronauts license handles that. I think that Marvel still owns Bug as long as they don't make any reference to Micronauts stuff, because he was an original creation for Marvel, so I'm pretty sure they still can use him as they see fit. Anybody read any good indie comics lately? Mainstream stuff I definitely hear plenty about, even if I don't have time to read it. But the real trick is hearing about good indie comics that have come out. And not to say that anything is better than another. I love the passion that I see in indie comics. That's what I like there. Dark Arc is good. Let's see. American comics need to make something like what Shonen Jump does. Yeah, I agree. I think that that would work. Anything good I read is old. I think there's lots of good stuff still coming out. I've been reading Usagi Yojimbo and Ed Brubaker's older stuff like Sleeper. Very nice. I don't know that Sleeper's indie. I mean, it was published through Image, wasn't it? I think it was part of Wildstorm. So I don't know. I don't really count, I don't think of Image or Dark Horse as indie personally. I think of in terms of actual publishers, maybe Fantagraphics and Drawn and Quarterly. But I personally think that Valiant and what else? Image and Dark Horse. I think of those, IDW. I think of those personally as mainstream companies. Hip Hop Family Tree, yes. Divine and Wicked, yep. Wicked and Divine, I believe it's called, yep. I miss Dark Horse Presents too. That's a good point. I was really sad back in the day when TMNT creators sold out and turned the Turtles into pizza eaters. Well, honestly, they did that really early. I mean, how many issues did Eastman and Laird even do on their original Ninja Turtles book before they started handing it over to guest artists and writers? It was somewhere between 8 and 16, somewhere between that. They didn't do that many before they wanted to see other people's interpretations. So I've always felt like Ninja Turtles is fair game for sort of anybody to give their take on the material. It's been remade so many different times. But I love Ninja Turtles, I will say that. I'm a big, big fan of them. Been reading that since they were black and white. Valiant is now owned by DMG Entertainment. Oh, okay. I've been reading a lot of old school pulp. The Shadow. Oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, very cool. Regression is a good indie comic, huh? Okay. Regression. I'll keep that in mind. Any love in reserve for the classic Ms. Marvel costumes for later drawings? Maybe. Bob Haney. Yeah. Bob Haney was an interesting writer back in the day. All right. I think it's time for me to start adding some color to this stuff. So that it looks a little better. Hopefully. We'll see. Whoa, look at that. A super chat. Thank you, XYZ Rob Zombie. Nice to see you drawing again. I know you've been busy, and I hope you can take a well-deserved break. Well, today is sort of my break. I right back to work tomorrow, but that's okay. Don't get a lot of time off these days, but you know what? The channel does continue to grow. It's entirely possible that someday I'd be able to do comic tropes full time, and if I was, I would definitely create a lot more content. Do like reviews of movies that are based and TV shows that are based on comics. Do like reviews of newer comics, just like a quick snapshot review. I'd do a lot more interviews. A lot more. I guess I haven't really on this channel done pretty much any, but those are all things that I would love to do with the channel. Just check what color this is. Yep, that's what I want. So let's add some color to Carol here. See what happens. Did you read Judge Dredd in the 80s? There are some interesting themes in that comic. Some, yeah. I love Judge Dredd. I find it fascinating. Like, I like it when they go really satirical, but it's also just good badass action. Some really fantastic art by the British artists of that era. Yeah, it's hard to go wrong with any sort of Judge Dredd in the 80s. But I haven't read it all. Hopefully someday I get the time to really sit down and do something like that. I have some of the Case Files books, like black and white collections of the entire run. I'd love to just have time to sit down and read all of Judge Dredd from 2000 AD, but who knows? I gotta say, I love Jamie McKelvey's design for the Captain Marvel costume here. Like, I think it looks awesome. I think it's one of the more iconic modern day costumes, personally. Your mileage may vary. I also think Corey Walker's design on Invincible, fairly iconic. Trying to think of other sort of like modern day, newer sort of superheroes that are iconic. You know, I mean, Spider-Man is probably my overall favorite costume, period, but that's going way back at this point. Definitely curious what some of your thoughts are out there. Let's see. I have seen the Boys trailer. It was okay. I didn't love the Boys. It was okay for a little while, but then I just that's why I actually recently reviewed Brat Pack. I just sort of felt like it was really the same kind of idea of like the original sort of superheroes being pretty corrupt and needing to be taken down. So I didn't love it. I'll look up the questions in a moment. Oh, I'll be going to my local Comic-Con this Friday. Not a guest or a vendor or anything like that. Just attending, just like anybody else. I'm going to the Emerald City Comic-Con this Friday. Just Friday. That's the only day I've got off work for quite a while. But I'm looking forward to that. I think that could be a lot of fun. It's a pretty good convention. If you're ever in the Pacific Northwest, I recommend it. It's nice. Hopefully I'll at least have some fun seeing some cool cosplay. That's one of the more fun things these days, I think. Like the amount and creativity of cosplay at conventions. It's amazing. It's amazing how much that's grown in popularity and how common it is. That used to be such a rare and special thing to see someone in a costume that they made in the 80s and 90s. But these days it's really common, and the creativity and the hard work on display is amazing. I've read Empowered. I like that Adam Warren's art. The story I think is kind of lame, but I like the art a lot. Strange Brain Parts is an obscure YouTube comic channel covering the margins of the art form. Never heard of that one, I have to admit. Thanks for the kind words, Ryan Fenton. That's nice. What do I think of Kentaro Miura, Berserk? Have not read Berserk. Sorry, don't have an informed opinion on that one. Thanks, David. That's nice. Hello, Atomicus. Are you going to take your camera to Emerald City? Yeah, I'll probably I'll have my phone, so I'll try to take an extra battery pack and try to get some good photos. I feel like I made an episode once about, like, the costumes and the things that you'll see at, like, any Comic-Con, and I did that at New York Comic-Con, which is just massive and huge. So I sort of feel like I'd be just retreading the same old ground if I made another episode about a convention. But I'll definitely try to take some cool photos and share them on, like, maybe my Twitter at Comic Tropes. Do I have that? Yeah, I've got that listed up here. Pointing this way. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, look at this. Reggie Hemingway. Ever eat at Tat's Sandwiches? No. What's Tat's Sandwiches? I love sandwiches. Where is it? What are they? What do they specialize in? Give me some more info. I love sandwiches. Do you? Ever read American Vampire? I have read American Vampire. It's pretty good. I really love the artwork in that. I like that it's a different kind of idea. I like that it's sort of following a not great person. I like that, you're sort of following the antagonist of what would be in most stories. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, it's cool. One of the very few comics, maybe the only comic that Stephen King's ever actually written for, not just inspired or watched over, but like actually worked on himself. So that was pretty cool. I like Stephen King's work generally. I like it quite a bit. So I definitely made a point of reading what he did for comics, and yeah, it was pretty cool. He wrote a little bit for American Vampire. Did he write some of the beginning of Lock and Key? I mean, he might have written like an intro or something in a trade paperback, but that's all by his son, Joe Hill. As far as I know, he did not write any of the actual comics. But by the way, Lock and Key, that's probably one of my all-time favorite comics. That thing was fantastic. I'll definitely discuss that in an episode someday, why I thought it was so good, why it worked for me as well as it did. I guess now that they're making a show, so I guess I better hurry up and try to do that before the show comes out. Otherwise, people will think I'm just jumping on a bandwagon, right? That's not... You know what? Who cares? Who cares what people think? You can like something even if you're only discovering it today. I don't know what I'm thinking. But I would like to do an episode on it just for myself. Like, I would have fun talking about Lock and Key. I think it's actually got some scary moments in it, but it's also got like an amazing mythology with really interesting characters, some twists and turns to the plot. Just great. I have not actually read H.P. Lovecraft. Somebody just asks, have I read H.P. Lovecraft? I'm aware of him. I've read of H.P. Lovecraft. I've read of his creations. I have not taken the time to actually read an H.P. Lovecraft story. I probably should, since it informed things that I like Hellboy and stuff. But he as a person seemed like kind of a despicable person. He was pretty racist. But he did create some interesting ideas, so I'd definitely be curious to read them in their original context. Try to give it a fair shake. Hey, C. Kim. Welcome. H.P. Lovecraft is amazing. Okay. My throat has been bothering me today. Suddenly I'm cold and have a headache. Oh no. People are sick. No. I lost track of the thread. I was trying to catch up, but I think folks are talking with each other, which is awesome. If people find a couple stories that they like from my channel, or make a friend, then I consider what I've done a complete and total success. That would make me very happy if either of those two things happen. if I can make a little bit of money at the same time from the hard work, then that is the cherry on top. But I mostly started this for myself to sort of have a project that I could enjoy and that could sort of distract me from my depression, which is quite serious. And I think that it's been successful on that level. I think someday I'm going to need to take a week off. I haven't done that really yet. So I need to do that someday, but for right now, I really enjoy making this show, and I'm glad that at least some people out there get something out of it too. That makes me quite happy, actually. That makes me feel like a success. So, thank you, everybody. Like, seriously, you all helped me a lot just by watching. And the kind comments and coming in here and stuff like that, that's awesome. 2 people make a baby because of your channel. How would you feel about it? Like a boss? I'd feel like a total boss. Where is my... Ah, there it is. Sorry, looking for the right shade of yellow. I need like an acid yellow and a canary yellow. Chris, taking cold showers every day really helps with mood. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do that. A cold shower? What's it supposed to do for you? And why would it do something? That's interesting. Nobody's ever told me that before. Whoops, shaking my leg, jumpy leg syndrome. Christopher Johnson says, I love this show. My 5-year-old daughter wakes me up and asks if Comic Book Guy is on YouTube yet. Well, that's adorable. Thanks. That's really cool. I don't know if anyone has asked this, but do you think that comic book characters in movies are better when they are more different from the comics? Well, it's a balancing issue, isn't it? I mean, like, I want something new. I want to be surprised. I'm okay with adapting the source material and making some sort of a change. At the same time, if it's not recognizable, then what's the point? You're doing something else. Here's a new Half in the Bag. Oh, everybody leave. Go watch that. I do love Half in the Bag. Oh, they're probably talking about Captain Marvel, huh? Well, they'll probably tear it apart because their job is to be movie critics. And honestly, if I was a movie critic, there'd definitely be plenty to complain about. But as a fan, I had a good time at Captain Marvel. I really did. I wish it was better. I do. It's not perfect. But I also don't think it was bad. I had a good time. My fiance doesn't know the character at all, but she had a good time. My audience was really into it. They were like laughing and cheering and stuff. So, yeah, I definitely think that Marvel has another hit on their hands. And I think that they've set things up to potentially make a much better sequel. We'll see. But I liked it. And at the same time, if I had to critique it from a movie critic point of view, there definitely are some elements that they could have done better. So I'm not offended if somebody like has a legit, intelligent criticism of the movie and isn't like slavishly in love with it. Fortunately, I didn't feel like I needed to go in with that mindset, and I was able to have a really good time. So that was nice, actually. I was lukewarm about seeing the movie until I saw the hate heaped upon it. That's unfortunate that like any form of entertainment, like that you either feel obligated to not see it or to see it just because you stand on a certain side of a political issue. Like, you should be able to go to a movie just because you want to. So it is unfortunate that there's any division there. But honestly, like, I do think it's pretty entertaining. Most people clearly do as well. It had a tremendous opening weekend. So I don't think anybody needs to, like, that part of the equation is resolved. It did very, very well already. It's a hit. That's just how it is. So now I don't feel like you should feel any obligation other than like, oh, does this look like fun? Then I'll see it. That's where I stand. Pretty even tempered, I guess. You know, I am in my real life very political, but I try not to use that on my channel except when I consider it important. I don't think it always has a place in criticism or analysis. So my goal with my channel is honestly just, it isn't to divide. Let me put it that way, you know? I want to, even when I'm talking about a comic that I don't like, the point, and hopefully this is clear, the point when I talk about things that I don't like is to explain where I think there was a shortcoming, where I think that somebody could have taken a different tactic, and I try to explain what that tactic is, as compared to just saying that I think it's stupid or bad. I try to be even-handed and fair, but there's definitely stuff that I don't like, and I can totally respect if there's stuff out there that other people don't like. That would be boring if we all liked the same shit. Let's see. It would be a good time to map all the connections between Miracle Man and Marvel Man. Okay, I'm not... thanks for doing what you do, Chris. You have reinvigorated my love for comics. That's awesome. Comics are amazing. You know, they really are amazing to me in terms of how much you can do with them as a medium. You can tell so many amazing types of stories. Oh, that's way too dark. Sorry, I'm looking for my skin tone for this. I don't know where I put it. I'll find it. But anyway, what else is being asked? Arm fall off boy or dog welder movie? Yeah, drawing looks fantastic. I don't know if it looks fantastic, but it's kind of you to say. A few things I would do differently, but that's a big part of why I do these live streams. Is I kind of can't erase or stop once I'm going, so I feel like that's actually a big plus. Is to sort of keep moving forward and just deal with any challenges you're coming across the best that you can. Let's see what happens. I'm going to try something. These, the cool thing about Copics is because they're alcohol-based, they'll blend. So what I'm trying to do is just sort of add some darkness and some highlights here and there. We'll see if I can. I feel like it's kind of faint with the color I've selected. I'm going to need to select a different color. You missed the earlier post, but Wim Hof documentary on Vice channel covers all the cold water benefits. Oh, okay. I'll take a look if that's on YouTube. I'll watch that. You got your first set of Copics this weekend. Oh, awesome. They're so fun. They're so fun. One thing I recommend if you got like a set of grays is to honestly start with that, because it can help you like find the way to add gradients and light. Start with something light and darken it, and then you can sort of mix in color theory after that. So that's just one recommendation I'd have if hopefully you got like a bunch of different grays. It's a good place to start. Looks like she's playing a role in the Karate Kid remake. Well, my goal is that she's more just sort of like, I don't know. You know what? I added two conflicting things here. I drew her sash going down as though she's flying up, but then I drew her hair up as though she's going down. So I screwed up in a big way. Now, there is a way around this. I could, like, add all sorts of energy effects around her, and, like, the energy draws upwards, even if she's flying up. So I could sort of save that, but honestly, like, that just shows that I didn't plan this out all the way. This is, like, that is, in other words, not a good drawing. Benjamin says, I did get all grays. I've been studying value lately and thought the same thing. Perfect. That's awesome. Let's see. Vegeta style hair power. I don't know what that means. Sorry. Put her in space. Gravity. Sure. Yeah, that's true, actually. If she was in space, actually, that's a really cool idea. Maybe I'm going to do that. I'll add, like, a little sort of energy power around her, and then I'll draw, like, space behind. That could be fun. Dragon Ball reference. Oh, you know, I've never watched Dragon Ball. That's definitely a blind spot in my nerd knowledge. I have to admit, I don't really know anything about Dragon Ball. I mean, I know more, like, the facts of what it is. I've never watched it, but I'm aware of, like, how long it ran, how it's, you know, like, the second best-selling manga of all time, and most of that is more just because One Piece has been running longer than the original Dragon Ball story did, but definitely that work was very influential to a lot of other artists. Manga artists specifically. That's something I could do an episode about someday. I'd have to do a lot of research, though, and that's just that's a big tunnel to go down, you know? That's kind of intimidating, thinking about, like, checking out Dragon Ball at this point. What's now that I've mentioned, like, something that has been around and a lot of people know about it, that's, like, I consider a blind spot. What's something like that for all of you? Like, what's something you've heard about and, like, maybe a lot of people you know like it or something, but you've just been like, I just have not traveled down that wormhole yet. I don't know about that popular thing. I'm curious what else people out there have encountered like that. Whoa, never change the Comic Tropes theme song. Thank you. Thank you so much for the super chat. That is so nice. That is so nice. Am I into other anime? A little. I was way into anime in, like, the 90s for a while. Not as much now, but I still read plenty of manga. But just last night, I rewatched Akira. Whoo, does it hold up? It was awesome to rewatch that. That was, like, just so amazing on so many levels. The animation is just so spectacular. It's really something special. God, so detailed, so fluid, so detailed. Just awesome. So that was last night. I rewatched Akira. If for any reason you haven't seen it yet, strong recommend. Akira is so good. I need to get the manga because I have the manga box set, the 35th anniversary set, and I will be reviewing that at some point this year, because for anyone who either hasn't seen or read it or just has forgotten, Akira is set in 2019, the future of 2019. Near future at the time, but still, like, it was like Yeah, like 30 years in the future from when it was made, something like that. Don't get any more followers. The chat goes by too fast already. It does. It does. Yeah, I miss a lot. Sorry. That's some great work, Chris. Captain Marvel is looking marvelous. Thank you. No, they never really shout Akira. They shout Tetsuo Canada. RoboCop was set in the far future of 1997, exactly. I have read Domu. Domu is also a spectacular work. If for some reason Katsuhiro Otomo had not created Akira, I think he'd be very, very well remembered for Domu. And it's really frustrating that Domu has not remained in print here in the States. Probably the decision of Katsuhiro Otomo himself, if we're being honest. He probably just, it's his early work. Some artists are precious about that stuff. Oh, since we're talking about this, though, there's another YouTube channel called Cartoonist Kayfabe, and they review Domo this week. I definitely give that a very strong recommendation. Check that out. Really, really good listen. You'll like it. Good show. Good show. I will be doing some art requests for a GoFundMe that just launched today. One of my friends had some pretty bad economic hardships, and I know we all come across this stuff, it seems like every day now. But anyway, one thing I figured I could do for him was take on a limited number of commissions. So if you check out my my Twitter feed, you'll see that I mentioned it there today. I don't want to bash you guys over the head with it, but if you want a commission, basically that I'm donating my time and the money all goes to my friend Paul. What's my opinion? Thank you, by the way. This is a super chat by Magic K. What's my opinion on Jim Shooter's new universe in the 80s? A flawed idea. A good idea with a not amazing execution. But I speak of that overall. I do think that Starbrand was fairly interesting. Trying to remember, I thought that Kickers Incorporated was not very good. So, yeah, it was an interesting idea that's honestly very reminiscent of the Valiant comics of the 90s. Jim Shooter definitely had this idea of sort of a brand new superhero universe, and sort of tried that twice, or maybe 3 times, because he also did what was it called, Defiant, I think. Yeah. I'm glad they tried it. I can't remember much of it that I was in love with. If anybody out there remembers the new universe and has fondness for it, speak up. Tell me what I'm forgetting, because maybe there was something really good in there that I'm just not thinking of. But I don't remember anything that great from it. I remember that it was a cool idea, but it never really did anything for me. Oh, that's right, Alien Legion. Alien Legion was from Marvel through their Epic imprint, and it was by Carl Potts, who would go on to do Punisher War Journal. That was something he became very well known for. But Alien Legion was definitely an interesting sci-fi comic. Big epic idea. Very cool. Yeah, Marvel used to have an imprint called Epic where they would do sort of creator-owned pieces. Not a lot, but some. And that was also what they used to publish the English reprints of Akira, which we were talking about earlier. So that was the first time that was brought to America. Marvel was publishing that through their Epic imprint. Pretty impressive in retrospect that that's something that they did. Whoa! A super chat from C. Kim. That's so generous of you. Thanks, Chris. You're the best, man. You're the best, Craig. That's so nice. I think ElfQuest may have been part of Epic briefly, because I'm pretty sure Marvel did publish it for a time. I'll have to talk about ElfQuest someday. That's a pretty important sort of indie comic. That's a pretty important one. Are you going to do a video showing your collection of comics? You know what? I really can't. I think I've mentioned this before, but when I moved out here to the Seattle area, I moved across the country from the DC area, and I sold all my comics when I moved. So I really don't have much of a collection. A lot of what I discuss in my episodes is from memory, and then I have to like sort of repurchase the comics. A lot of times I'll get them digitally so that I can use those images a little more easily. So I unfortunately can't make a very interesting video about my comic collection because I really don't have much of one. It would not be an interesting episode. Kind of a bummer sometimes, but here's the thing. I had 30 long boxes of comics. That was a massive collection, and it was a hassle to organize. Like, whenever it was time to like sort of put comics in alphabetical order, that's a lot of boxes to be going through. Anytime you moved, it was like hard to go through. So, you know, it was in a lot of ways it felt good to let that go. Yeah, 30 long boxes. I had a pretty big collection at one time. I don't tremendously miss it, to be honest, except that like it could be useful for this show. That's the only thing, is like that it could be very easy reference for what I'm doing now. But on the other hand, I don't miss like all that space. That's so much space, folks. Have I watched One Punch Man? I actually have watched a little bit of One Punch Man. It's pretty darn funny. I am very amused by that. I'm specifically most amused when it's been a little while since I watched it, but I want to say the main character's name is Saitama, something like that. One Punch Man, we'll call him. When he talks about his training regimen for how he became so powerful. And it's like built up like it's going to be really epic and stuff. And he's like, every day you must do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and jog for 10 miles. And he acts like that's like this tremendous undertaking. And that's legit what he did to become the strongest being ever. So that's pretty funny. I like that a lot. Like, 100 every day. Woo. This is a decent tone, I think, for Captain Marvel. I hope you agree. I had a comic business briefly, and I miss all those books. Oh, yeah, that sounds tough. Nice skin tone selection. Thanks. Oh, I know what I can do. Here. Let me zoom in. There. That's at least... I know it's not perfectly in focus. Actually, that might have been a little too much of a zoom, because I don't think... Yeah, you can't even see, like, my hand too well. Let me zoom back out at just a tiny bit. But, hopefully that gives you a little clearer idea of what I'm working on right now. Yeah. I don't know if it's great shading, but I thank you. Excuse me. You should always take a compliment. That's a tough thing to get used to, man. Taking compliments. It's hard. Let me see here. I want to grab another shade of pink to sort of do a couple little highlights here. I forget who it was that just said they bought a bunch of Copics, but when you use them, take off the cap for both ends. If you only take the cap off for the end that you're using, sometimes the ink will bleed all over the place. If you do both ends, I don't know, it's like it creates some sort of a vacuum otherwise. So, tiny little tip. And they can bleed anyway if you push too hard, but like if you take off both caps, you're a lot less likely to get unwanted bleeding all over the place. Anybody discover any cool bands lately? New music that you like? Charles Bronson, Salvador. All right. Cool. Air pressure. Air pressure. Cartoonist Kayfabe mentioned a comic store that had a lady crash into it. I wonder if it was the same one. I don't know. I don't know what that is. No, I haven't had time, J. Andrew, to check out Burial Grid. I know that's what you were playing on your YouTube channel. So I will try to make a point of giving it a listen when I get a chance. Let's see. I need a darker yellow for something. There we go. This is called Napoli Yellow. This is what I need. We'll just... It's probably not showing up a lot, but I want to give this star, or starburst, just a little extra definition, because it is supposed to sort of be a three-dimensional object. So, if I can just put a few touches there, and then as long as I've got it out, sort of a couple highlights. Yeah. Boy, that's, yeah, I mean, I'm probably, like, doing stuff that's so tiny that it's not that noticeable, but it's worth it to me. If I can see a little bit of a difference, then I can feel like it's more three-dimensional, and I can feel happy about it. What do I have for a light pink? Let me see what color this is. No, that's purple. I want something for the lips, but I was hoping to avoid like just a super dark red. That just didn't feel authentic, so I'm just seeing what I have for the lightest sort of red or pink that I have. I don't have a lot of options, I guess. Let's see what this is. Try this, maybe. That'll work. That'll work. What pen were you using for your outline? Just a brush pen. I particularly enjoy the Pigma by Sakura. This is a medium brush. I usually have a bunch of those. I just like them. Oh. Excuse me. Which of the three versions of Captain Marvel do you prefer? Right. Okay, so there's like Marvel, there's Monica Rambeau, and there's Carol Danvers. I guess as Captain Marvel, I actually do prefer Carol Danvers the most. Marvel is an interesting idea that, like, if you go back and read his comics, he's all over the place. They didn't know what to do with him. They never really did. I don't think any of his stories are. They're interesting for what they're trying to accomplish, but they're not that interesting in and of themselves. And then I think that, like, the best comic that he's in is his death, just because it was permanent and it was treated very seriously. Monica Rambeau, great character, doesn't really have a connection to call herself Captain Marvel. I prefer her like as Photon or on Next Wave. That's my favorite version of her. I kind of like her in Ultimates. But as far as who do I like best as Captain Marvel, I'm going to say Carol Danvers like is definitely superior to those. Let's see. I don't think many folks would want to go back with the old Marvel storylines. The old ones don't say much from your earlier review. You know, they're fun. They can be a lot of fun. They can be fun adventure, and they can introduce interesting ideas. When I did my review, it went up yesterday, of the Kree Skrull War, there are lots of interesting ideas in there that can lead to later good stories, but they're not always given enough room to breathe. It's interesting that Nick Fury has to try to apprehend Mar-Vell. That's a conflict, you know, because he doesn't really want to do that. But you're just sort of given a throwaway line where he tells like Dum Dum Duggan, like, oh, I intentionally let like our planes fly in a loose formation so that he'd have a chance at escaping. And you're just like, oh, well, okay. It's interesting that like the Vision is being put on trial in front of the Senate, and like his testimony is discounted because he's an artificial being. Well, that would be really interesting to do. And in fact, like about like 15 years later or something, Star Trek The Next Generation did exactly that with an episode where Data has to defend his right as like a sentient being to have an opinion and stuff like that. So it would have been cool if the comics addressed that. They introduce cool ideas. They have clever fight sequences and stuff like that. The artwork is great. So there is stuff to like about those issues, but it isn't necessarily as deep as you would kind of like it to be. So let me choose like some sort of a dramatic color to give her like some sort of like energy sheath. What would be good? I'm thinking something warm, but not like darker than this. So like a warm color, like a red, orange, yellow, but it can't be darker per se. Let me see what this particular orange is like. That's too dark. Oh, thanks for the super chat. Did you see last week's Doom Patrol ep? No, I don't have the streaming service for DC. Man, I would love to have Hulu and that DC Universe thing, but it's just not in the budget right now. Like, it's just not. I've got too many, like, sort of day-to-day bills to worry about. I did read the Ultimate Galactus trilogy. Wasn't that, like, Galactus, they called it? It was okay. It wasn't as good as the original stuff by Kirby and, sorry, I was just looking at something. The original stuff by Kirby and Lee I kind of prefer, but that's me. Alright, so I'm going to sort of give this, like she's, I'm going to put her in space as someone suggested. So I'm almost drawing this like living fire, but that it isn't really touching her. It's just sort of around her, an aura, you could say. Let's see. Are there questions? No. How long have you been drawing? Well, I mean, I guess I've been drawing my whole life. Like, if I go back, like, I have all sorts of, like, comics that I made as a kid before I was even reading comic books. Like, they were probably more based on, like, my knowledge of comics from comic strips and stuff. I used to make, like, Pac-Man and Garfield comics and stuff. When I was 10 years old, I made a 60-page Transformers comic. Sometimes I think about, like, doing that as an episode, like, reviewing it, because it is bonkers, folks. It's so funny to see, like, what a 10-year-old kid did, because it's purely repeating the ideas that I've seen from other episodes, you know? It's not very original or anything, and the artwork is questionable at best because it's a 10-year-old. But it's a 60-page comic. I can't believe that I had that kind of wherewithal to, like, make... Like, it's amazing how big it is. And it's not like I'm drawing in stick figures. Like, it's not good, but it's not stick figures. Like, it is full-blown panels and illustrations. It's kind of hilarious. So I'll definitely, like, have to do an episode about that someday. Another super chat. J-Muse, thank you for taking away the boredom this Monday night. Dude, no problem. You guys are taking away my boredom. It's fun to talk comics with everybody. It's a good night. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of comic book movies coming up, don't we? We've got Shazam, looks pretty good, and then it looks really funny actually, and then Avengers is coming out in like a month. We're spoiled, man. We're spoiled. It's a long way since, like, I was settling for, like, episodes of Manimal and stuff like that. Like, I was just like, I guess that's about as close as I'm gonna get to superhero stuff this week. $6 Million Man reruns and stuff with, like, you know, he's throwing like a bear. Wait, was that... No, that was the Hulk. There was like the TV Hulk, like he's fighting a bear in one episode, and he just picks it up and throws it, and like someone just like threw like a stuffed animal bear across the screen. It was hilarious. Manimal, yeah. Greatest American Hero was I loved that thing as a kid, man. I loved Greatest American Hero, and I was always like, oh, when's he gonna put on the suit? Put on the suit. Like, as a kid, you don't understand, like, budget or anything. You don't really care as much about, like, character building or stuff. You're just like, can you please just do the superhero stuff? But, yeah, these days, we've got, like, a million movies. It's crazy. It's crazy how much we get. Greatest American Hero had a great theme song. It sure did. It sure did. These days, you know, like every show kind of tries to have a fairly quick opening. At least most of the network shows. Like if it's pay cable, it changes. But like most of the channels try to have a pretty quick intro. And I do sort of miss the days where you had like really catchy theme songs for shows. I do miss that. Probably makes me just sound old. Magic K says, will you make Wiz Comic number 2 review in April? Probably not Wiz Comic number 2. I would be more inclined to discuss the work of C.C. Beck in general. That's what I would probably be inclined to do, but we'll see. I'm still thinking about it. Captain Marvel, the Shazam version is now what I'm talking about. Is interesting. I don't think that they hit their stride right away. It took a little while until it was great, and it was great for quite a while. And then it did go downhill, and that's an interesting arc to study that we could definitely still learn from. Hercules, the TV show, was just awful. Okay, where'd that come from? The Game of Thrones theme is dope. Yeah, you know what's interesting about the Game of Thrones theme is like how last minute they put that together. Because I believe that show was originally going to have a completely different composer before Diwali, but I love that theme. That's a good one. That's a good modern one. There's like what else are some shows today that like still have like a good like theme song or something? Like something that you like instantly are like getting sort of pumped or amped for because you hear it and you're like, oh yeah, that's that's this. When I was a kid, we had like Knight Rider and A-Team and stuff like that. These were like Magnum PI. They were like really catchy. Automan, yeah. Nightman, Street Hawk. Nightman was based on the Ultraverse comic. Who said that? That's true. Lee Grieger said that, right? Knight Rider theme is one of the best. Jeremy Pinkman's talking about 80s stuff. Daredevil like as a modern one. Gravity Falls. Yeah, interesting. I don't know if this counts, but the new Doctor Who theme is cool. I mean, yeah, it's new. I mean, but it's based on something from before. But yeah, it's new. What else? It's Always Sunny. Yeah, public domain music. Isn't that hilarious that like that thing is so catchy and it's just like public domain, like anybody could be using it. I love it. It definitely also reminds you of like its sort of super low budget roots. It's amazing that FX bought that show. I don't know what I'm doing with this. I'm just having fun. X-Files theme song is a memorable one. That's totally true. Do you like Matt Fraction? I do. I do. I wouldn't say that I'm his biggest fan, though, but there's still been a lot that he's worked on that I've liked. I liked his work on Iron Fist, and I liked his work on... what was the other Marvel thing that he did? Hawkeye, right? But I like his own stuff too. Have I ever heard Moxie Furious's cover of the 60s Spider-Man theme song? No. I'll try to remember that. The Mighty Orbots. Have you ever seen the songs you didn't know had lyrics about the X-Men No, that's interesting. The X-Men cartoon theme had lyrics? Ugh. A lot of people that like created a show did that. They would like create lyrics to a song that had no lyrics so that they could copyright it or something like that and be listed on the credits and get paid royalties for the music as well as the show, because I'm pretty sure that Gene Roddenberry did that for the Star Trek theme song. I don't know what those lyrics are, but I'm pretty sure the original Star Trek theme song, I'm pretty sure had lyrics. Which is weird to think about. Anyway, I think I'm basically done with this for now. I'm going to zoom back out so you can just sort of see what I did. And, if I had unlimited time, what I'd continue to do is just sort of draw a black background and then, spot some stars in it, which would be fun. But it also would be just sort of monotonous to watch. And, I'm really just doing this for an excuse to interact with all of you and, of course, just practice techniques. There's a few things that I would do differently. I definitely would have made a clear decision. Is Captain Marvel flying up or is she landing? Because clearly I had both ideas in mind as I drew this, because her hair's going up and her sash is going down. The only way I could fix that was by covering her in energy so that she's just out in the void. That should not have been necessary. I should have thought that through a little bit more. But this is the first time I've tried to draw this Captain Marvel costume. It's okay. I would like to probably study what her boots are a little bit more. They're very nondescript in my piece, so that's something I would study. And then I would just sort of practice with her face and her hair just a little bit more. But I did have fun doing this, and I had fun talking to all of you. Turbo Teen, yeah, that was a bad cartoon. That was a bad one. It's also just creepy. But I believe Jack Kirby did the character designs for Turbo Teen, including his car mode and his transformation sequence. So, yeah. Studying ladies' boots is a fine hobby. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess it could be. Anyway, good talking, everybody. Thank you so much for the super chats as well. Very, very kind of you. Can use all the help I can get. But definitely appreciate that. Hope you enjoyed the Kree Skrull War episode this week. And next week's episode is I don't think I can actually do any sort of synopsis of the story itself because it's over 300 pages. It's a really massive volume. I'm going to instead be talking about, I'll explain the plot a little bit, but it's going to be about an Argentinian comic and how important it is. So some of you maybe have already guessed where that's going if you know anything about Argentina's history. Otherwise, hopefully that'll be a pleasant surprise. I think it's a really interesting story. I really do. I'm excited about making this episode. Very excited. And anyway, aside from that, I know. Keep reading comics. See y'all.